Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's show, I wanted to give you my takeaways from Donald Trump's speech today at Davos in Switzerland. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. The first thing that stood out to me from Donald Trump's speech today in Davos, Switzerland, was that he mentioned that Europe is unrecognizable. He said, look, he loves Europe. He's 100% Scottish on his mum's side and 100% German on his dad's side. However, Europe is unrecognizable. He went on further to mention that friends of his, dear friends, that have just come back to the United States from their trip to Europe have been shocked and appalled, basically saying to him that Europe is absolutely unrecognizable. And he made certain to mention that that was mentioned in a bad way by his friends, and it wasn't in a good way. So there was nothing complimentary about it.
Certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody and say I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way. That's in a very negative way. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction.
So this comment in particular is extremely important. And the reason I say that is because it goes to the fundamental of the relationship between the United States and Europe. The current United States administration is pursuing a certain course that is charted, and it sees that running in the opposite direction from the one in which the Europeans have charted. So he's basically saying to the Europeans, you need to get your act together, we need to get back into sync, and then we can navigate this journey together. Otherwise, you're basically on your own. The other takeaway that was notable, well, for me, was his attack on the United Kingdom's energy sector.
The North Sea is incredible. They don't let anybody drill. Environmentally, they don't let them drill. They make it impossible for the oil companies to go. They take 92% of the revenues. So the oil companies say, we can't do it. They came to see me. Is there anything you can do? I want Europe to do great. I want UK to do great. Sitting on one of the greatest energy sources in the world, and they don't use it. In fact, their electricity prices have soared 139%. There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers.
He mentioned that he would love to see Europe do well, however, that their policies on trade, the economy, the military, immigration, and energy are very important, and that those needed to be revised. He said that Europe needs to get away from its failed policies that it has enacted over the last 10 years.
Central concerns to anyone who wants to see a strong and united West, because Europe and those countries have to do their thing. They have to get out of the culture that they've created over the last 10 years. It's horrible what they're doing to themselves. They're destroying themselves. These beautiful, beautiful places.
He believes that Europe is destroying itself. He also went on to say that we, as in the United States, want strong allies.
We want strong allies, not seriously weakened ones. We want Europe to be strong.
Now, this is important because he's saying that the United States' current administration does not believe that Europe is strong enough as an ally to the United States. And you can see where this is beginning to build up to. He then went on to address the elephant in the room, namely Greenland. He started off by saying how the United States had assisted Europe during the Second World War and how the United States had helped Europe win the Second World War, and that the United States had effectively been a guardian of Greenland, and then subsequently at the end of the Second World War gave it back to Denmark. And it seemed like he echoed some regret about the United States having done that. He also mentioned that the Americans did not receive much thanks for their contributions to Europe.
We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland, where we already had it as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Denmark not long ago after we defeated the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others in World War II. We gave it back to them. We were a powerful force then, but we are a much more powerful force now. So what we have gotten out of NATO is nothing except to protect Europe from the Soviet Union and now Russia. I mean, we've helped them for so many years. We've never gotten anything, except we pay for NATO. And we paid for many years until I came along. We paid for, in my opinion, 100% of NATO because they weren't paying their bills. And all we're asking for is to get Greenland, including right title and ownership, because you need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease. Number one, legally it's not defensible that way, totally. And number two, psychologically, who the hell wants to defend a license agreement or a lease, which is a large piece of ice in the middle of the ocean where if there is a war, much of the action will take place on that piece of ice. Think of it. Those missiles would be flying right over the center of that piece of ice. All we want from Denmark for national and international security and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built. We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful.
He said they sacrificed a lot, and after having given Greenland back to Denmark, he doesn't seem to think that or believe that Denmark has shown any appreciation. He then moves on to say that Greenland is nothing but a piece of ice with basically a few people that live on this piece of ice. So if you understand what he's doing here, he's diminishing Greenland's worth, because he's now building up to establish his punchline, basically, which is going to be he's going to go in for the kill. And when he goes in for the kill, which is that he wants Greenland, and Greenland is basically this insignificant little plot of land. However, they need it for national security and nothing else. So he's gone on to create a vision in people's minds that Greenland is just this piece of ice with a few people living on there. It's not extremely significant. It doesn't matter to most people. However, the United States requires it for strategic purposes and national security purposes, as well as for defending Europe. So this little insignificant piece of land shouldn't pose much of a threat in terms of the United States acquiring it. It's a very simple transaction in his mind, the way he's laying out his plan, and that it's something that should be a no-brainer, basically. The United States should not have to embark on this back and forth all the time and have to threaten with tariffs and threaten with military intervention. It should be handed over to the United States because basically it's not something terribly important. Trump then went on to say that the United States won't use force in its acquisition of Greenland.
We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
He then went on to say that Canada lives because of the United States, and he was deeply upset with the remarks that Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, had made the day before in his speech at Davos. You then find that after Trump's speech and all the other speeches that took place, Trump had a sit down with Mark Rutte, and they had taken a few questions from the media. And interestingly, Mark Rutte said, well, Trump, as usual, said that they want Greenland. Mark Rutte, in his statement, said that he wanted to assure Donald Trump that NATO would, at the drop of a hat, come to the assistance and the aid of the United States should the United States be threatened. And he wanted to put that out there because he wanted to put President Donald Trump at ease.
You are not absolutely sure that the Europeans would come to the rescue of the US if you will be attacked. Let me tell you, they will. And they did in Afghanistan, as you know, for every American who paid the ultimate, for every 2 Americans who paid the ultimate price, there was 1 soldier from another NATO country who did not come back to his family. From the Netherlands, from Denmark, particularly, from other countries. So you can be assured, absolutely, if ever the US will be under attack, your allies will be with you. Absolutely, there's an absolute guarantee. I really want to tell you this because it is important. It pains me if you think it is not. And under your leadership, this alliance is stronger than ever.
Well, thank you very much.
However, as they got to the end of this brief interaction, reporters were allowed to ask questions. And one of the questions posed by the reporter was regarding NATO's security and the dissolution of NATO, as well as how basically NATO coming to the United States' aid would affect Trump's annexation of Greenland. And it's interesting because Donald Trump said, look, I know Mark Rutte, he's a good man, and he's never lied to me before. So if he says that NATO will come, they will come. But then in the second breath, he went on to say how the defense of Greenland was absolutely, if you, for want of a better word, pathetic, and that the United States required Greenland for national security as well as for the security of Europe. And he left it there. Basically, that Greenland and its annexation was not off the table.
To hear the NATO Secretary General say NATO will defend the United States if it comes under attack.
Well, I hope that that's true. I mean, he's a good man. He's never lied to me before. We've had a good relationship, and he made that statement. That's nice. I mean, I just, when I see what's happening with Greenland, I wonder, because I want Greenland for security. I don't want it for anything else. We have so much rare earth. We don't know what to do with it. We don't need it for anything else. And in terms of Greenland, you have to go 25 feet down through ice to get it. It's not something that a lot of people are going to do or want to do. No, this is security we're talking about. And I can say one thing about Mark. He wants security, and he wants security for all of us. I think we're a member of NATO. He wants security for NATO and beyond. So when he says that, Steve, I think it's very nice.
Now, I know he did say he's not going to go in militarily. He was asked if the United States would be willing to make an offer, a cash offer for Greenland, and he seemed amenable to this. However, once again, you never know with Donald Trump. I think the Greenland issue is still on the table, and I think that Donald Trump is still going to get Greenland. It may not be via a military option, but he will definitely have Greenland. So thank you for taking this time to spend with us on this short video, and we look forward to to seeing you in the next video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps us grow the channel.